and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton. And today we're going to take a look at the Virginia Air and Space Center. I think a lot of people drive by it and forget to go inside. So here's what's inside. My guest is Bob Griesmer, the director of the museum. Hello.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me.
I'm just going to start with, it is a beautiful, iconic building right there on the waterfront in downtown Hampton. It's part of our skyline. It's important. But people sometimes, maybe they've been inside once a few years ago, had a great experience, but don't know that they need to come back. Bob, why do they need to come back?
Well, you've hit on a very interesting point. Many people, especially air and space museums, sometimes will think, well, I've been there and I've done that, and why should I go back? But we have a lot of reasons to come back this summer. We have two new traveling exhibits that are just recently opened up, the Robotic Zoo. We have the Aviation Aerospace Maze, which is a 3,000 square foot maze for small children. Alongside an outdoor cafe. It's outside.
Oh, fun.
So the family can have a sandwich, have a beverage, let the kids run into the maze, have fun. We're much more focused and are moving in the direction of smaller children, for families that have small children to have a reason to come back. Well, we have this magnificent backdrop, so there's not too many places in the world that have an F-16 fighter plane hanging from a 95-foot ceiling. And it is a magical backdrop, theatrical backdrop, to being the official NASA Visitor Center with an IMAX screen that's 5 stories high and 7 stories wide, with one of the biggest screens in Virginia and certainly in Hampton Roads. And we have 2 fantastic films this summer. We are partnered with the National Park Service here up the road in Jamestown to bring a National Park Adventure, Greg McGilvery's National Park Adventure. I've been involved with the IMAX world for 30 years.
That sounds great. And they're celebrating, now I can't remember if it's this year or next year, but the 100th anniversary of the National Park Service.
That's right.
And what great timing.
Exactly. And we're going to be on PBS with the National Park Service Ken Burns program this summer. And we're really excited about that. A Beautiful Planet, another NASA IMAX space film from the International Space Station, is showing Robots 3D. And our educators are going to be out on the floors doing STEM education for families and children throughout every single day that we're open this summer. So it's the most robust experience that we've ever had in our 25-year history.
Well, one of the things I think from the days when my kids were a little bit younger is they get something completely different out of that same experience every single time, because as they grow, they can absorb different things, they can learn different, sometimes it's just fun and they run around when they're little, and maybe you teach them a little bit, but as every single year, they can absorb something new or contribute, to what they're learning in a different way.
Yeah, we've also opened up Imagination Playground with huge, large, lightweight blocks that are sometimes bigger than the kids themselves. But in order to build things, they have to cooperate in teams just to lift them up and put them into place.
That's educational.
And we never know what they're going to build. It's all about curiosity. It's about investigating and exploring for children and their families, as well as solving problems, and that's problem solving. Mm-hmm. And leadership. We watch kids assume leadership roles in teams and team building in Imagination Playground. It's a wonderful vehicle, a wonderful educational platform for growth, for intellectual growth. And that's what STEM education is at the Virginia Air and Space Center. It's all about finding and asking your own questions and finding your own solutions.
I know that I used to plan my summer vacations to cities that had really good science museums or children's museums because it was so much fun. Yes. With the kids. Do you get a lot of additional traffic in the summer from the region or from visitors?
Yes, of course. With Virginia Beach, we do very well on days that it rains. If you're on the beach and you're stuck in a hotel room or motel room with kids, what you need to do is come out to the Virginia Air and Space Center.
Absolutely.
But also people at stay-at-home vacations. Not everybody's traveling large distances. So we have people from all over the country. And, of course, the turnover from the military here brings people in from all over the country that stay for maybe a 2-year tour of duty. So there's a lot of turnover and a lot of reasons for us to be able to have a very robust July and August. And if the rain continues the way it has been, I'm going to tell you, we should have a banner summer.
Well, and the other thing is we spent a lot of time talking about kids, but I was talking to one of the directors in the city who had a band of cousins in and a full house, and they spent, he said, you know, I'll take them to the Air and Space Museum for a couple of hours. They spent 6 hours there.
Yes.
I mean, they had a great time, the adults as well as the kids.
Yes.
And I think sometimes we all forget about that. If I'm rushing through worried about what my kids are learning, I don't get to read as much. I don't get to learn as much.
No, that's right. And we know that, as a matter of fact. The research that's been done on free choice learning environments, we know that when you bring your kids, you subordinate your interests to that of your children, as opposed to if you go with an adult family member or with a friend from a girlfriend from college comes in from town, your behavior patterns are completely different. And we have to meet those needs as well, and we do. We have a cadre of volunteers, some of whom have flown those planes that are hanging from the ceilings.
Isn't that cool?
And when the letters come in from these people, they say, we had the most extraordinary experience of any museum in our lives because of so-and-so who took us for a tour, and the stories, because it's stories that are the compelling reasons and the compelling things behind the artifacts that are in the institution. That's what makes it all relevant and fundamental.
So how do you get those? Because that's new. I mean, I don't remember there were some maybe older kids who were helping the younger kids on some of the experiences, but your level of people out on the floor is really different.
Oh, it has changed. It's always been there, but we're making it more robust. We're making it more formalized. There are tours that will leave with, you know, a seasoned, retired individual who has all of these wonderful stories to tell, because we've recognized that this is part of what makes the experience worthwhile. Now, those stories may not be compelling to a four-year-old, but you know, just as the adults come in during the day. With an 11, a 7, and a 4-year-old, you can't expect them to check the 4-year-old with the coat in the coat room. Mm-hmm. So we have to provide a broad-based experience that is scalable and programmable to different age groups and different interests.
Now, you came from other museums. You have a museum background. How do we rate here? How do you compare the Air and Space Center in Hampton to other museums you've worked with or seen?
Well, so I started in Norwalk, Connecticut. I oversaw the construction startup of the Maritime Aquarium. And so it was a 100,000 square foot facility dedicated to the species of Long Island Sound, an IMAX theater, and a maritime museum. And then went on to be the president and CEO of a children's museum in West Hartford, Connecticut. So it's coming up on 30 years in this industry. But this facility is really awe-inspiring. I have to tell you that now that I've been here for about 20 months, and we've been making changes with our business model and making sure that we're relevant and fundamental to the community here and making the progress and the changes that we've been talking about this morning. Mm-hmm. But when I walk in through the employee entrance in the morning and the lights are still rather dim and we haven't opened up yet, and I walk under that canopy of history, of the magnificent history of NASA's Langley Research Center and all the things that have happened through the Mercury and the Gemini and the Apollo 12 moon capsule and now the new Orion capsule that's on the floor. You have a great sense of pride and history, which this community definitely has.
Right.
And I think that the architecture, the building, and the artifacts are equal to the passion that Hamptonians have for the Virginia Air and Space Center and for NASA Langley and the Langley Air Force Base and all the great things that originated in this community.
I think that's what makes a museum successful in a lot of ways, is if it's authentic. If you haven't taken something and stamped a copy of it in a city, but if you build what is the roots of that community.
Yes.
And that's what the Air and Space Center has done with both NASA and Langley.
Yes, and in addition to that, we have a wonderful gift shop that we've totally re-merchandised, and we have summer camps this summer, all focused around STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And
that's a great, even if Hampton families have been there before, if your kid has an interest in science, or maybe doesn't have an interest in science and could, it's
or
such
should.
Yes. Kids, especially girls, sometimes close off to science at a young age, which is a real tragedy. But you guys do it in a very different, fun, interactive
what
way.
we're trying to communicate to families and to the community and science centers in general is that in this day and age, you don't have to be intimidated by science, or you don't have to have an expectation that you're going to be a rocket scientist in order to need the skill sets of dealing with math and engineering. Manufacturing plants have robotics today, so you've got to be competent in these skill sets in order to get, all different kinds of employment and jobs. The skill sets and the requirements for today's marketplace about job creation and meeting the demands of the job market and keeping companies here is all part of what we're all working towards. The school systems, the state, the Department of Education, and free choice learning environments are all focused on making sure that we provide these resources to the community. In the final analysis, beyond public education and private education, I have a strong belief that this is a original $30 million investment by the citizens of Hampton. Coming up next April, 25 years ago, they made that decision to put this asset in play, and it should be utilized by the community. We have doubled in the last 12 months the number of children from Hampton schools who have participated either in a program on our site or in an outreach program. We're involved in just receiving a grant for research in STEM. So we're really going to be at the forefront of free choice learning progress and executing research that will enable leaders to make decisions about resource allocations.
I hope so, because I think one of the things that has hit the schools very, very hard are these standards of learning and a little bit of a fear or a panic that learning has to be in the traditional classroom environment. And a lot of times field trips got cut, and of course that was cost as well. And people forget that you still learn, most kids still learn best when they participate, when it is active. You learn science by doing labs, by those experimentation processes. And I'm glad to hear that you're increasing in that way.
Yes, and the research even goes further beyond that. It says that most people who go to museums as adults go to museums and become free choice learners because they had an adult in their life that led them in that direction. And so we're very active in pursuing programs along these lines as well. In my particular case, it was my maternal grandmother who dragged me through New York City to the Museum of Natural History and the Hayden Planetarium and up and down the Statue of Liberty and so on and so forth. So, in a way, when you get to this point in your life, you think back in terms of what impacted you. And it always usually comes back to that one teacher, that one adult. It could be a parent. It could have been a neighbor, anybody. But we really believe strongly in adult-child involvement in getting them excited about what's in their community and just being curious and trying to become problem solvers.
It's so important in any career that people pick today, and in their daily life as well. It's not just about our jobs. We're whole people, right?
We are, and the demands of the workplace are becoming more challenging every day, and we don't want to lose another generation, do we?
No, we absolutely don't. That's wonderful. So, Bob, in short, people should come this summer. I mean, what a great time it is. Your kids are out of school. Families have a little bit more time together. A lot of us go to the museum pretty frequently for events. And so what we experience is the static displays. And we don't make it to the second floor. We don't get to do all that interactive stuff. So maybe the other thing is sometimes we ditch the kids and come out, as you said, with friends,
That's right.
friends.
There's many different ways that adults experience free choice learning environments. And it's whether it's other adults or adult family members or friends or colleagues or with their families, there's plenty of ways to have an enjoyable day at the Virginia Air and Space Center. And, we think this is probably the most robust programming that we've done in many, many, many years. I won't judge before I came, but certainly since I've arrived, I'm very excited about the amount of things to do for the range of ages that we're able to manage. And it will get better. But this summer in particular, we are all out there attempting to invite people to return, give us a second look, think about becoming a member, because you only have to come twice a year, a little under twice a year, in order to be able to come free for the rest.
See, and that's so worth it for families.
And
Absolutely.
And we changed our business model. Now the IMAX is free included in the price. So IMAX films are always changing, and we've gone away for the most part for the Hollywood productions. We brought Star Wars back. We'll be bringing Star Trek back this summer.
Well, those have a particular appeal and connection to the museum.
Oh, yes. I mean, on Star Wars on the 17th of December, they've started to line up at 10 o'clock in the morning in full costume.
I believe it, though.
They were,
hey, I was around for the first Star Wars, back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah, so we were pleased to do that. We're pleased to be able to bring things back that are thematically consistent, but we're really getting back to our roots about doing the things that we think are important. You can't be excellent in all things.
Yeah.
So we really focused on, we want to be exceptional in what it is that we are, and we are a first-class science museum dedicated to telling the stories of NASA and its history, and talking about the things that it will be doing in the future as it takes us to Mars and the outer planets, and we explore new horizons on civil aviation that they've been exploring over their 100 years. It's this 100 years of the National Park Service, 100 years of NASA Langley.
100 years of Langley Air Force Base.
Yes, what a vibrant, incredible history in Hampton Roads to have all of that here, and we're very proud to showcase so much of that, because in this day and age you can't get onto the bases as much anymore.
Right.
It's more
You're the
limited.
official site. You are the visitors center.
So we're proud to be able to tell that story.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you again
people,
sometime
and
soon.
I'll be coming back very soon.
Good.
Thank you.
We'll see you there.
And I hope to see you also at the Virginia Air and Space Center this summer or later. Remember, it is history, it is local, it is science, it is flight, it is space. There's so much to learn and do and enjoy there for people of all ages. Thanks for watching.